Awesome. We're going to be talking about fundamentals. Today is July 9th. Okay, so let me go ahead and move this over here so that way you guys, there we go. So one thing that I always like to go to, I'd like to go to Forex Factory.com. There you go. Now on forexfactory.com, you're going to be able to identify the news events that are most important for us and most relevant. So when it comes to most important and most relevant, pretty much what it is going towards the scenario of the news events that are popping up. For example, things that I like to look at into are going to be the following. I recommend you guys write them down so that way you guys know what are these news events. So NFP, CPI, it's rate statements.
Papa, Mama's right over there. You want to go see Mama? Go.
Good.
Mama is right there.
I'm going to go ahead and meet you guys.
Yes, Mama.
Rate
Where are the
statements.
rate statements?
What was that?
I was just saying, where are the rate statements? Where are they at?
I'm waiting for some rate statements. So it's okay. So NFP, CPI rate statements. We'd like to look at GDP as well. Gross domestic product, which is GDP. And there is one more that I like to look at, and let's go ahead and look for this one real quick because, being honest, I kind of forgot which one it was. Retail sales. There we go. And retail sales. These are the core fundamentals I like to look at. Now, there is one news that affects a lot of these events, right? Now, CPI alongside with PPI. Okay, CPI alongside with PPI. And then there's one news. There's one news event that controls the direction of the market. And this news that controls the correction of the market, it gives you an outlook every single quarter as far as what is happening. It tells you if the market is on a good, healthy standpoint, or it's not on a healthy standpoint. Now, NFP, you're going to be seeing NFP once every month, which is the first Friday of every single month, which I highly recommend to look at the numbers, see what's going on, so that we guys can have an idea as far as where the market potentially lead into. Now, CPI and PPI, mostly CPI is a very, very, very strong news event that I particularly like to trade. And the currencies that I like to trade with CPI is USD CAD and NZD USD, right? Those pairs move a lot when it comes to CPI, and I highly recommend to actually look at how the market fluctuates during these sessions, during these news events. Now, rate statements is also a really, really good one. This one moves the market a lot. And the reason why it moves the market a lot is due to the fact that, it's a statement. It's telling you, hey, rates are at this area, and if they have not traded, they are nowhere near to that area. What's going to happen is that the market is going to fluctuate very, very rapidly. Okay, so I highly, highly, highly recommend to look at these areas when it comes to rate statements. This is probably one of my favorite sessions. So rate statement and CPI are those two are my favorite ones to trade. Before it used to be NFP, but recently NFP has not been very, very volatile, to be honest. It's been creating a lot of whipsaws, and when you see a whipsaw, what a whipsaw is this right here. So you'll see that the market, the news is coming. This is the market where I'm drawing. And then NFP hits and you see whipsaws, which is you see market going up, down, and then stays right here in the middle, right? And we don't want none of this, okay? So that's the main reason why I'm not trading NFP no more as much. NFP was my favorite news to trade, 2-3 years ago. Now, when it comes to the next thing, CPI. CPI, you'll be seeing, big moves to downside or big moves to the upside. It's very good for news trading if you know the overall direction where it can go to. And rate statement, you will see a lot of movement. You'll see hundreds of pips on rate statements, especially on GBP pairs, right? You can trade GBP pairs with this one as well. The only thing that I tell you guys when you guys are going to trade these news events is to be careful with the spread, because the spread does widen before the news comes out. It widens a couple seconds before the news comes out. Why does it do that? To hit your stop loss, to hit your limits, and then it tries to make you lose money, right? So pay attention to these areas, and also be considerate when it comes to your stop loss, right? And then there's GDP. Oh, sorry, I put GBP. This right here is not GBP. It is called GDP, gross domestic product. Now, gross domestic product. Going back to rate statements, I also like to trade AUD USD. Okay, so AUD USD, NZD USD, and USD CAD are the ones that I like to trade alongside with NZD USD. Okay, now going over to gross domestic product. To be honest, gross domestic product, I only like to trade GBP pairs, right? And only if it's a high impact news. So GBP pairs is like GBP USD, GBP JPY, GBP CAD. Any GBP pair I like to trade alongside with AUD pairs if that news event fits this pretty much news that's going to come out. And retail sales is pretty much very similar to GDP pair. So putting everything in consideration, these two are my favorites when it comes to news events, CPI, and rate statements. Then NFP used to be it, but it's very, very, I'd say be careful with this one. Be aware. And then the ones that have the least movement usually are going to be these two. Okay, so let's go ahead and break this down. Let's go over to Forex Factory. Now, when you go over to Forex Factory, I want you guys to take this in consideration. In Forex Factory, you're going to be looking for high impact news. So I always like to add a filter over here to the right on this green little area. It's going to be your filter section. So you're going to go ahead and click on it, and you can just go ahead and get rid of the yellow and get rid of the white one. Now, I particularly don't trade the Chinese currency. All the other currencies I do trade, right? So I don't trade the Chinese currency. So I'm going to go ahead and take that off. Now, if you want to, you can go ahead and take some of these things off. Me particularly, when you're ready to go into the red folder and the orange folder, you already took a lot of those filters out, because what the red folder means is that it's a very high impact news. The orange folder is a mid impact news, and the yellow folder is a low impact news, and the white one, pretty much no impact, right? So I like to apply the filter. Now, another thing that you guys need to take in consideration when you are in Forex Factory is the time, okay? So always make sure that the time right here on Forex Factory is the exact same time as your laptop. Why? This has happened to me several times, and trust me, it is annoying. You get on the market, you get on Forex Factory, see what time the event is, you wake up early, and then you're just right there waiting for the news event, and it's not the time, right? Because you never were able to fix these times. You either got on an hour late or 2 hours late, or you got on an hour early or 2 hours early, and you don't want that happening. Trust me, you don't want to be waiting. Now when it comes to the next thing, is going to be, the news events, right? So unemployment rates, which is going towards NFP, right? We want to be able to understand what's happening right here. So there is the folders, which we're going to go ahead and click on these little folders to give us a little outlook as far as what can happen. Now, as you can see, it says actual greater and forecast is good for currency, meaning it'd be good for the CAD, for the CAD dollar, right? So right here, what happened? Previous forecast, right? We aren't in that day yet, right? Till tomorrow is NFP. So till tomorrow, we'll be able to understand, is this good or is this bad for the currency? So meaning that tomorrow is that news event that we spoke about, which is this one right here, okay? Non-farm payroll, the first Friday of the week. Now that we were able to see that, if we see positive number, let's say instead of 550,000, right here we see 580,000. What would happen? If you go over to the USD CAD pair, okay, that means that it would be good for the Canadian dollar. Now, since it would be good for the Canadian dollar, what would happen right here if the number is positive, right? Let's say it comes out better than expected, what would happen? You know, we'd go down. Exactly. We'd go down. The market would push down. Why would that be? Because the Canadian dollar is gaining value. Therefore, it costs less for an American dollar to buy a Canadian dollar, right? And that's exactly what we have over here, right? So many individuals see these numbers but don't really understand what those numbers mean, right? And I want to let you guys know when it comes to that is like we have the US dollar, which is the base currency right now, the primary, and then we have the Canadian dollar, which is a secondary currency. So whenever we go inside a trade, right, we got to understand the full concept of why this is happening. So if we see that the market is going up, okay, right here it's going up, that means that the US dollar is gaining value, right? It's either the US dollar is gaining value or the Canadian dollar is appreciating value, one or the other, right? And that's what caused the market to go up. And that's why these numbers are over here. So for example, if I want to buy a Canadian dollar right now, $1 would be worth 1.35 cents of a Canadian dollar, okay? Now, let's say tomorrow news is positive for the Canadian dollar, and this drops all the way over here. What would happen? So the Canadian dollar would grab so much value that it would cost less. It would cost more dollars to buy a Canadian dollar, meaning that now instead of $1 being worth $1.35, now it would be only worth $1.35, but almost to 34 cents. Okay, so it fluctuates in the price, and I just wanted to let you guys know, quick update on that, because I myself, I didn't know that until sometime until I actually started getting into fundamentals. I started seeing what was happening, and you really want to be able to understand what these numbers are for and what is a primary and what is a secondary when you are trading fundamentals, because it will give you a better understanding of what's happening. Because if you know that a news is going to appreciate certain currency, you want to know how does that affect the market. Now you know that if the certain currency is going to be appreciated. In this case, the secondary currency is going to be appreciated in value. That means market moves down. If the first currency, okay, which is the primary, is appreciated in value, that means market goes up. Okay, so going back to Forex Factory real quick, we're gonna go ahead and scroll down, and we can see the other news events. So we have CPI, and right here, same scenario. You go ahead and click on the folder, and it'll tell you actual greater than forecast is good for currency, meaning that we see GBP USD, right, and actually comes out greater, GBP USD should go up. GBP JPY should go up. GBP CAD should go up. So on and so on and so on. If it's less than forecast, that means that we can expect for the market to go down, okay? And things like that are things that we want to take in consideration. Now, there is a little area on Forex Factory. Sometimes it pops up, sometimes it doesn't. Let me go ahead and see if it's going to be popping up, where it tells you where the rate statements are currently at the moment. So let's just browse around in here, see if it does pop up. There we go. Okay, so you guys see this right here? This is the percentage and rate that's happening during the year so far. So first quarter, second quarter, third quarter, right? Right now we're going towards third quarter, and we have not spoke about rate statements. Now, once you actually understand this, that the rate statements have a overall, they have a overall target yearly, right? And that yearly target is to have a 2% gain in rate statements. And right here, it's marking you where it's currently at. So you can see, we're on third quarter, and AUD is currently at 0.25% of rate statements. So we are behind, very behind on all of these. Okay, so third quarter can be very volatile. That means that third quarter, we can actually expect some movements towards the upside on AUD, CAD, NZD, USD. Now, the reason why we've been very behind on these rates when it comes to the central banks is due to the fact of all the news events that have been happening, all the phenomenons, all the coronavirus, this and that, so on and so on. So take that in hand and understand that central banks always try to get at least to 2% of rate statements on percentages, right? They want to gain at least 2% to keep the market stabilized, and that's their overall yearly goal. So if you see these things that are happening, what are you going to do? You're going to be looking for certain expectations in the market. Now, I'm going to tell you guys an average of what ends up happening. An average when it comes to GBP pair, you're usually looking at 0.50%, not 2%. When it comes to US dollar, you're looking usually at 1.25, 1.25 between 1.25 and 1.75 central bank rates on growth. NZD USD, you're looking around at a 1.25 central rate. And I hope you guys are writing this down because these numbers are very important when it comes to rate statements. Okay, so again, when it comes to GPUSD, you're looking at about, you're looking for these areas to be within growth. The JPY, it's weird. We usually look at about a 0.25% growth to a 0.50% or 0.75. So I would say JPY usually grows between 0.25 up to 0.75. Even though we know that the news events and central banks are targeting 2%, they can't always hit those targets, right? And it will be very, very unusual if you ever see a central bank rate above 2% a year, right? So you're always going to be looking between, usually on the majors, which is like USD, NZD, and AUD, and CAD, all those, you're usually targeting between 1.25 to 1.75% growth per year. So you can see right now we are very behind. We're behind about 1%. So that means that this year coming up, this quarter coming up, we can expect a potential 50% growth. We can expect a potential even 75% growth, right? And that's why it's very important for you to understand when these rate statements, news events are created. So let's go over to the calendar real quick and kind of understand how we can prepare ourselves for those news events. So you click on more, you'll be able to see what's going on when it comes to news events. I'm gonna go ahead and just refresh and take me right over here. All these news events were news events of this week. So we scroll down, we had AUD rate statement, right? And when it comes to that scenario, let's go over here. This was a RBA, so you'll be able to see this on speeches. You'll be able to see what they're talking about when it comes to rate statements. I like to see just the one that just says straight up rate statements. That way I can go ahead and give you those numbers right here. Okay, and those are the ones that actually fluctuate a lot in the market. So the news event that we have going on is Friday. That's going to be a good news event. Let's go ahead and move forward and see what's going to happen for these following days. So, okay, I went way too much. Let's go back right here. So next week, we have monetary policies. I don't really look at that. Rate statements. This one could fluctuate the market. It'd be something to look at. And then we have rate retail sales. So next week, we only have 2 potential news events that I like to look at. To be honest, there's only 2 news events that I like to look at when it comes to potential movements in the market. Now, usually you'll be seeing that the market's giving you these. Now, it's weird because it's not giving you overall. Well, it is giving you these ones over here, so that's pretty good. But we'll just have to check and see how the market's moving. Now, there is one core area that I like to check my news events letters, which is if we go over here, it is called wow, I forgot the name about it, and it was a very good news area. It is okay. I'll get back to you. Oh, okay. I'll send this one through a chat, and it's good. I'll send it privately because I'm gonna post this on YouTube, and it's something that I want you guys to know, and not so much to the whole public. Because the area that I go to for my resources on news events, it's an area where not a lot of people know about it, and it literally tells you everything these people have been working on this site for plenty of years, and they are pretty spot on. They tell you where the gaps are going to be on before the gaps happen, right? And what's a gap? A gap is in the area where we like to say pretty much an imbalance zone where we see changing market price. So for example, let's say Friday closed right here, and then the next day it opens over here. Well, this whole area is a gap, and market usually tends to build that gap up. So therefore, we would be able to take advantage of that gap movement. Okay. Now, before I go ahead and moving forward or go through other things, do you guys have any particular questions that you might want to go ahead and ask or clarify? All good? Yep. All right. So when it comes to these scenarios, these are always going to be those news events I'm going to be paying attention to. Now, on the technical standpoint, when I like to go and see the market, if I know that's going to be a big impulse move, you know, what is it specifically that I'm looking for? I'm looking for the market to start stabilizing itself like this. Okay, you guys see how the market's doing this whole little thing right here? Okay, you see how it's consolidating? The main reason why it's consolidating, one, it's the CAD, okay, is a USD CAD, and two, tomorrow we have NFP, okay. So the currencies are always going to do this, and you want this to do. Usually, the one that has the most give me 1 second. Give me 1 second, guys. Okay, so the ones that you want to be trading is going to be the ones that have the most consolidation, right? So for example, we have a CAD news, right? For example, NFP. I'm going to go ahead and look at the CAD pairs and the US pairs. Let's say we have a USD pair, right, with the news. Let's say we have rate statements on AUD pair. What's going to happen is I'm going to go ahead and do this AUD USD, AUD JPY, AUD CAD, all those pairs. I'm going to go ahead and put all those pairs down so that way I can go ahead and see which one has the most consolidation. So for example, we had CAD news tomorrow. We have USD CAD, we have CAD JPY, we have GBP CAD, right? So we're going to go ahead and put all those pairs down and we'll look at what's happening. Okay, so GBP CAD has some type of direction. So I'm not going to look into this so much, right? Because it's not consolidating a lot. Then we have Euro CAD. Let's look at Euro CAD. We go over to Euro CAD. What's happening? We have some consolidation, but we see, let's go on the bigger time frame. That's the 1 hour. We have some consolidation, and that consolidation is very wide, right? So I don't want to be looking at this consolidation or this pair that much because it has a big wide space, right? I want to look at the ones that have the tightest spaces to trade it into. So I'm going to go over to AUD CAD. AUD CAD has a pretty wide space, and it also came to a point of interest, so you know that can probably help for the movement to go down. Let's see what else have we not had. AUD CAD. AUD CAD, we can see that the market is also consolidating. So you see all these pairs, all the pairs are consolidating in these areas, right? Let's go to USD CAD. USD CAD. Let's go on this one. USD CAD is probably going to be my best bet because you see how the consolidation is very concentrated. So you always want to trade the ones that have the most concentration within that area. Why? Because that means that there's a lot of orders being accumulated within this area right here. So the smaller the area of where it's accumulated, the bigger the push is going to be. Okay, because there's so many orders that there's not a defined area. And usually when people see the rate statements come out, they either pull out or they get in and so on and so on. So therefore, there's a lot of liquidity spiking into the market at those times. Now, I expect for USD CAD to potentially move to downside. We'll have to see. We'll have to see how London reacts. Understand that right now we are in Asia session, so we're just going to go ahead and see how London reacts. Right? If London reacts with a good movement to the downside, like around right here, creating me some liquidity, well, I'm definitely going to wait for that New York session to kind of come up around here, around 8 a.m. So that way at 8:30 Pacific Standard Time, when news comes out, I get in for those sales and get a good area to enter off of. Okay, so when it comes to the technical perspective, that is specifically what I want to look for. And usually when you see market moving up like this, usually it's because the market is gathering so many orders that when the news comes out, you see that big push to downside. Okay, so during New York session, you'll be seeing those retracements, and I typically like to trade against those retracements if everything is in my favor as far as analysis, as far as other criteria that I like to look for. And of course, you want to be taking in consideration, is there liquidity or is there no liquidity? Okay, so pretty much with that, guys, that pretty much ends up as far as, the whole fundamental bias. I am going to be talking about fundamentals again, and I'm going to go a little bit more in depth as far as some of these news events, as far as what it is that you look at, and what pages are the ones that I look for, right? So what are going to be the websites? I'm not going to say it on right here on this call because this one is being recorded. It's going to be sent inside the group, but it's also going to be sent out to the public in New York on YouTube. So I definitely want to go ahead and keep that private for you guys and give you guys the benefit of those websites. Okay, so if you guys do have any more questions, please mention it in the chat, the group chat, and if it's something that is a really, really good question that we should all go as a team, we'll definitely go ahead and make another session going over that particular question. Okay, and if you guys need to go a little bit more in depth after that, then let me know, and we can definitely go ahead and schedule a one-on-one. All right, guys. So with that said, thank you guys for jumping on today's session. I appreciate your guys' time. And with that said, I'll see you in the next one. All right.
Thank you.